Everyone, the time is 7:30. We will begin open session now. I ask all to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight we'll begin our evening with the agenda-related public participation. Marilyn, do we have any agenda-related comments tonight?
No agenda-related, all non-agenda-related.
Thank you. Reverb. Then I guess we will start with our LTA president, Andrew Johannes.
Good evening. I am Andrew Johannes. I am the president of the LTA, which is the Teachers Union. We are happy to hear that the district and the pairs have a tentative agreement on the new contract. The resolution can help bring peace of mind to everyone in the district. We hope that the board considers showing their appreciation to the other support staff workers like the SAs and administrative assistants. All workers at the district deserve a competitive wage. We'd like to congratulate the winter sports teams. The hard work and dedication of the teams was on display throughout the season. We wish the spring sports team good luck, as their season has already begun and the weather is starting to turn, so that's a good thing. I would like to continue to acknowledge the hard work that our teachers give to our students every day. For example, if a teacher spends just 5 minutes a week per student grading and providing feedback, this amounts to 10 hours of work per week. This does not include planning, meeting with students, answering emails, etc. The time crunch for teachers is real and can be exhausting. I would like to recognize the exec board of the LTA. From the Language Arts, Nicole Lombardi, Ryan Dara. From Global Studies, Natalie Carlson, Anne-Marie Leader, Jessica Lee, and Patty Cryer. From Math Science, Alyssa Brands, Bill Lansbury, Jim Mashar, Loya Paschowitz, and Diana Van Weingarten, who is also our treasurer. From Special Education and Student Services, Jane Bauer and Nora Booker. From Physical Welfare, Sue McCullahan, Missy Matero. And from Fine Arts, Mary Wolchek, Lisa Plikta, and Jamie Ray. Jamie Ray is also the vice president, and she's here with me like she usually is. So I want to say thank you to them. I truly appreciate their willingness to serve and assist me in helping the teachers throughout the year. And finally, we hope that students and staff enjoy their spring break. Everyone has earned a break of rest and relaxation this year. So again, thank you for your support and have a good evening.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And next up, we have our student representative to the board, Amina Qureshi.
So our debate team went to state. We had 6 semifinalists. We won the Best Legislation Award, and a freshman became one of our top 15 debaters in Illinois. 2 of our robotics teams are headed to the 2022 VEX World Championship this May. Our Model UN won our Francis W. Parker's annual Model UN conference. Steppers performed at Addison Trail High School for the WSC Diversity Show. Our future healthcare professionals learned how to ultrasound at Loyola University, and German Club baked some bretzel. Our pinball club has their first IFPA-sanctioned pinball tournament. WLTL had 3 managers win the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System Media Awards for their departments. PSI is filling holiday baskets for needy children at the Off the Streets Club until April 11th. BPA had 7 individuals qualify to compete at the national level. Last year's menagerie staff won the 2022 Columbia Scholastic Press Association Silver Crown. And our Latin Club was the recipient of the Lori Jolicoeur Friendly Hand of GCL Spirit and Service Award, as well as placed 3rd overall in school spirit points for medium-sized schools. In sports, our girls soccer had a 6-0 win against Jones College Prep. Our girls softball won against Argo, boys water polo won against Sandburg, girls water polo won against Hinsdale South. Boys swimming came 3rd in state. Our girls track won the 4x200 indoor conference. And our Orange Crush event is March 24th from 4 to 7. You're all welcome to attend. Our Polar Plunge raised about $20,000 for the Special Olympics. And of course, congratulations to the March Students of the Month. They were nominated by their teachers and selected by various departments as the most exemplary students in each department. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. That's great. Definitely ready for spring break, I'm sure. Great, thank you. Next up, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Waterman.
Okay, thank you, President Dillon. I'm going to start with March is International Women's History Month, and our 2022 theme, Providing Healing and Promoting Hope, honors and recognizes the thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history. One such woman, Judy Heumann, the mother of disability rights and author of Rolling Warrior, is scheduled for a virtual visit and book club event at LT later this week. She will share her story of hope, healing, and access for all, and will speak with more than 20 classes as we continue to work to create a school where everyone feels a sense of belonging. LT has also created a card station where students or staff can visit our library and create a card for a woman they would like to celebrate during the month of March. We're proud to celebrate International Women's History Month and honored to highlight this year's theme of providing healing and promoting hope. Later this evening, we're asking the Board of Education to consider both certified and non-certified staffing recommendations for the 22-23 school year, including the addition of some certified staff positions within our English learning program and our counseling and student support services as well. Tonight's a really important step in our preparations for next school year, and it's honestly the result of work that really began last fall with the development and the finalization of our academic program guide. It continued through the winter months when guidance counselors worked with students in January and February to submit course requests, and it culminated with our leadership team recommending course sections and prioritizing our staffing needs for next school year. We're, simply put, we're in the people business, and there's probably no better example of that fact than in March when we identify our staffing or our people needs for next year. It certainly is probably the most significant recommendations we make on an annual basis, and I want to highlight that for our Board of Education. Tonight, we're recommending the employment of over 300 certified staff, which is the most significant investment our board makes on an annual basis. And I also want to express our appreciation to our counselors, to our division leadership team and their assistants, to our associate principals and their assistants, and also to our entire central leadership team and their assistants for the work that's gone into these recommendations. And I mean, overall, it's just a critical process, and it's our hope that the materials and the information that we presented last week, but also that's provided in the packet tonight, really serves to highlight its importance. We did have the following Freedom of Information requests have been processed since our last meeting. The Illinois Retired Teachers Association requested a list of all certified teachers retiring this school year. An individual requested the district's surety bond certificate and insurance documentation, along with a list of support staff, titles, years worked, and wages. We had an individual request the number of signed agreements of parents who transfer their student as opposed to proceeding with expulsion. We also have a local reporter requested information regarding a classroom conversation that was videotaped and broadcast online. A local reporter requested data on book challenges and reconsiderations. And a local Service Employees International Union chapter requested the para-educator bargaining agreement, job titles, and hourly rates. So that's our FOIA request for this evening. I want to pause during our superintendent report and invite our representatives from the LT Community Advisory Council up to the podium, and that is Kate Kelly, our president, and she is joined by two students this evening, Michael Badrov and Brandon Hornicle. So our last LTCAC meeting in March, we had the opportunity to hear a presentation from Dr. Tyrell and a variety of student clubs and courses. Latinos Juntos was there, yearbook, self-defense for girls, and our three guests this evening are going to share the consensus from that meeting. So Kate, I'll turn it over to you to present.
So we had 5 clubs and classes come and speak to us: basic self-defense for girls, forensic science, tabulae, best buddies, and Latinos Juntos. We were asked 3 questions, consensus questions, and my student friends are going to give you our responses.
Hi there, board. So the first question we got was, what other unique learning experiences do you believe would benefit LT students? And the council suggested many other learning experiences. Some of the highlights include etiquette classes / courses, socializing, respect, manners. Road to reality, a parent in the group said a real-life simulation of effects of drinking and driving really stuck with his children and wanted to bring that to LT as an option. A service hour requirement was opinionated to be helpful for the LT students. A self-defense class for boys, as there's a self-defense class for girls, and so many of the people there one-on-one for boys. A work internship club, more classes like forensic, which the girls from forensics presented many hands-on and real-world applications, opportunities that they enjoyed in the club, and so they wanted to expand on that more. It was suggested that there's no need to update IPC and consumer ed and add a social media class. That there is a need to update IPC and consumer ed, and add a social media class for students to incorporate more manners and lifestyle with that. Replicate Snowball. Many of the students there really enjoy Snowball and are sad to see it be such limited in capacity, and so they want to create more opportunities for more students. Shadow experiences with professionals and community for career students may be interested in. And then college prep / career options class for more preparation in college life. And then club level competitive teams for sports outside of the IHSA and stuff. And yeah.
Secondarily, the council was asked to choose one program that they heard about this evening and arrive at a consensus on one idea on how such a program can be improved. The council found all presentations to be wonderful. We were impressed with the presentations and opportunities. Some highlights of the discussions that occurred include self-defense opening up for not just girls, but for pretty much everyone that among juniors and seniors. Forensics being able to incorporate more in-house experts into their curriculum. How can representatives / LT members visit feeder schools to talk about extracurriculars and other LT activities before students come to LT? The Latinos Juntos, pretty much, they just wanted them to keep building the community and the resources that they already are and continue with what they're doing. And for Best Buddies, opening up more community service opportunities for students. Finally, the council was asked what part of tonight's presentations resonated with them the most and why. The council found it hard to pick just one and felt the breadth of the groups as a reminder that there is a place for everyone at LT. Some highlights. Forensic science, the students were energetic and eager to share their experiences. It was a great hands-on study that led to careers. Self-defense for girls, presentation application empowerment for self-defense, they found very enlightening. Tabulae, the fact that it's such a huge undertaking in that it's a great presentation from 1999 to present that went through chronologically, the fact that it's like students doing all of this stuff over 100 years they found that very impressive. Latinos Juntos, the development of the group over the past few years, they similarly found very impressive, and the safe space availability was a very important aspect of the presentation, and they found that interesting as well. The council finally suggested a way to encourage more student involvement and knowledge of the clubs, classes, and activities, and they suggested in doing so to add a 1 to 3 minute video for each club on the LT activities page. That concludes.
I'd like to thank my students, Brandon and Michael, for doing a great job. We have one more meeting, and we'll be back one more time this calendar year.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Brandon and Michael, for giving up your time this evening to share that report with our board. We appreciate it. So we're a little over 75% of the way through this school year, and when we return from break, we'll have several weeks filled with all the student recognition and prom and commencement and all of the end-of-the-year celebrations that make LT such a special place. So it will definitely be an exciting stretch, but in order to prepare for that, we will take a brief spring break next week, and it will hopefully be a chance to recharge and reset for the home stretch, and I hope that everyone has a chance to do just that. So with that, I hope everyone has a great week, an outstanding spring break, and that concludes my superintendent report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Next up under action items, Our first item is the second reading of the administrative and certified staff non-tenured employment recommendations for 2022-2023. Ed Piotrowski.
Thank you, President Dillon. This is the second reading of the non-tenured administrative and certified staffing employment recommendations that were discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting last Monday. As a brief reminder, school code dictates timelines by which staffing decisions for the upcoming school year need to be made. For us, those take place during the March board meetings, the Committee of the Whole for first reading and the regular action meeting for the second reading. There have been no changes to this memo with the exception of one staff member moving from one line originally placed at fourth year to being moved to the tenure line. There was the question last week about tenure acquisition and what that looks like. There are multiple pathways towards tenure acquisition. One of those has to do with evaluation ratings. So we take the time between the first reading and the second reading to make sure that if there is anyone who reaches that accelerated tenure, we properly place them. So you'll see an additional name at the placed on tenure. It's a staff member we were recommending for rehire. We are very pleased with that staff member's performance and are happy to include them on that line. Other than that change, there have been no changes to this memo. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions? Okay. With that, then, is there a motion to approve the administrative and certified staff non-tenured employment recommendations for 2022-2023 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Marilyn, can you please call the roll?
Member O'Bear?
Yes.
Member Beta Daniels?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
yes,
Member Dillon?
Yes. Thank you. This will continue in that vein. Our next agenda item is the second reading of the resolution authorizing the honorable dismissal or reduction of teachers for 2022-2023. Mr. Piotrowski.
Thank you very much. This resolution really goes hand in hand with the item that the board just approved. Anytime there is a reduction in force for staff members or an outright release or a reduction in force, there needs to be an accompanying board memo. We do have some staff members that we discussed based on available sections where there is a reduction in force. We originally thought that there was going to be a staff member who was reduced, although in looking at available sections for next year, it was determined that that staff member will remain at the same level, so that is our only change. In Exhibit 3, during the Committee of the Whole first read, there was one name. That name has been removed because that staff member will remain at the same level for next year, so there's no need for a formal resolution for reduction. Other than that change, there have been no changes to this recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have at this time.
Any questions? All right, excellent then. Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the honorable dismissal or reduction of teachers for 2022-23 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Marilyn, please call the roll.
Member Beta Daniels?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
yes,
Member O'Bear?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. Our next agenda then is the second reading of the instructional aid paraeducational staff employment recommendations for 22-23. Mr. Piotrowski.
Thank you. Very similar to school code timelines for certified staff, there are also school code timelines for instructional aides and the educational support staff. Each year, we go through the process of the formal release of all first-year paraeducators. Due to the fact that we don't know specific student schedules for the upcoming school year, those are in the process of being determined as we speak. That continues through the remainder of the school year and into June. And then at the end of June, we begin to recall paraeducators based on our needs. This year, we did have 14 paraeducators that were first-year paraeducators as of the first reading, and I made a comment last week that unless we hire someone in the week between last meeting and this meeting, it won't change. Well, we went and hired someone between last meeting and this meeting, so we do have one additional name for release. That name will also show up on the consent agenda as hired. All of these staff members have had conversations. They're aware of the process. They're aware of the recall, and we anticipate it going the same as it has in the past. So the only change has been the addition of one name on the new hire list as well as the formal release list. But at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I think you answered the only question I had, which was just to confirm that this is normal course, standard procedure, historical procedure, and that everyone involved knew this to be the expectation.
Yes,
and so
that
would
is,
be
yeah,
expected.
there's been no changes to the procedure, and we make everyone aware when they're hired.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Sure.
Great. Can we have a motion then to approve the instructional aid paraeducator staff employment recommendations for 22-23?
So moved. Second.
Can we call the roll, please?
Member Grudge?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member O'Bear?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. Next up is the second reading of the administrative staff contract renewals for 2022-2023. Ed Piotrowski.
Thank you very much, President Dillon. This item is very similar to the first one we just saw. However, that related to non-tenured staff members. This relates to administrative staff who have already earned tenure in the district. At this time, we recommend them to retain the current position that they are in. Tenure has already stated that they would be rehired. It's just hiring into the specific position. We do have one change, and I apologize for the change. We inadvertently had our current Global Studies Division Chair who was retiring on that list. We've since noticed that and removed him from the list. But other than that, there have been no changes to this, just the removal of one name who is retiring and so wouldn't be with us next year. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Because our global division chair is not retiring in the 22-23 school year.
He is retiring at the end of this school year, so we
This year.
are not
That's why I was
hiring him
sorry.
on for
Just
next
wanted
school.
to be
Correct,
clear.
yes.
Great.
And I apologize for having him on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Great. Is there a motion then to approve the administrative staff contract renewals for 22-23?
So moved. Second.
Here, let me call the roll, please.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member O'Bear?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Grudge?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is a request for some additional certified staff. This is with, I'll turn it over to Leslie Owens and Ed Piotrowski.
Thank you, President Dillon. As I walked through last week, there are two proposals, one starting on page 29 and one on 33 of the board book. The first is for our student services delivery model and staffing plan proposal, which is kind of the next phase of some work with staffing and the delivery plan that we started for the start of this school year, which was to shift our student support counselors onto grade level. So the recommendation is for a 1.0 school counselor that would round out our current senior team, next year's freshman team, to also have 4 counselors on the team. Also for a 1.0 social worker, so that we can have another full-time social worker who would be at one of the campuses, so that we'd have 3 full-time social workers at each campus within student services, and then also for a 1.0 504 coordinator and assistant division chair to assist us with the facilitation of 504 plans, both initial evaluations, the maintenance of plans, the reevaluations, and the articulation of our students with 504 plans who come from our associate schools into our district. The pages 30 and 31 of the student services plan kind of show the phasing in that we've talked about. So you see on page 30 what our model looked like previous to the school year, what it looks like this year, and what the plan would be for next year, and highlights the positions and the new positions and what that would look like. It also gives some context about the general ratios of students to staff and what the recommendations are. And as we discussed last week, those are kind of benchmarks that schools can look at and certainly then take into account their own environment, their own population to determine staffing. But this proposal would bring us more in line with those ratios, and we feel like allow us to provide better service to our students from the Student Services Division. Any questions about the student services changes or proposal?
I would reiterate that, I think we just are really supportive of what you're doing, and having the extra school counselor and the 3 positions, and really we are completely supportive of what you guys need for the counseling staff.
Thank you. That's very much appreciated.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that. I know we talked about that you have a lot of support here from the board, that we appreciate being able to serve have our counselors serve fewer students, I mean, at least have that reach to have a little bit stronger connection. And that that number, I know we talked about, that 1 to 665, that looks so overwhelmingly big, still doesn't apply. It doesn't mean that each counselor or social worker, I should say, gets 665 students. That's just how that ratio looks like it breaks down, but at any given time, it might be a different number. So I think having that added support will really help that and make it more accessible for some of our students that aren't always obviously in need to be able to get services from the Student Services Department. So thank you for that.
Welcome. And that is our goal, is to be in a position where we can be proactive about the supports that we provide for students, that we're not waiting for someone to be in crisis or need an intervention, but to be able to go out and meet with our students and be able to guide them to supports long before it becomes something that needs such acute intervention. So that this plan is definitely getting us there. We have a lot of data markers that we'll be monitoring, watching over the next year to see how that all shakes out, and I'll keep the board updated on that.
And one quick one, you mentioned this additional school counselor would serve the freshman class. So the counselor, as you reminded me, stays with the class and kind of moves through the 9th through 12th grade progression with them. I assume we have enough information on the incoming freshman class that it would be supportive, like we're around 1,000 students, give or take.
Yeah, our enrollment is pretty close to, I think, this year's enrollment.
Okay.
And so it would still be well within that same kind of ratio of the 1 to 250.
Okay, great.
And yes, they stay with their class. Our current senior class has just the 3 counselors on there. We didn't add another counselor, but our college counselor has certainly supported that class greatly as well with college and career planning. So we feel like this will be a nice way to get that new person started with a new class coming in.
And I just echo the support that Allison and Carrie both mentioned, especially on the social worker. I know we're improving the ratio, and interested to hear feedback over the upcoming years and semesters to see if that's adequate or whether there's additional needs that you see fit.
Absolutely, thank you. The other proposal was for...
Real quickly, Leslie, so we should probably pause and see if there are any more questions and then take action on that one before we go to the bilingual coordinator.
Everybody else is good? Great. Michael, you're good?
Yes.
Great. Then is there a motion to approve the request for an additional 1.0 guidance counselor, 1.0 social worker, and 1.0 504 coordinator assistant division chair for 2022-23 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Allison and Dawn? Marilyn, can you please call the roll?
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Albert?
Yes.
Member Beta Daniels?
Yes.
Member Grutsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. I'll turn it right back over to you, Leslie.
Thank you so much. The other proposal was on page 33 of last week's packet, and that is for the 1.0 bilingual coordinator. There's some history that we talked about last year of our program that continues to grow. We currently have 147 English learner students. 108 of those students speak Spanish, and the other 39 students speak a variety of 17 different languages. Approximately 70% of our EL students are what we consider long-term EL students, meaning they've received services for over 6 years. And then we have 47% of our students, about 69 students, are duly identified as English learners and special education students, so just some context. But that growth has been seen over time, over the last 15 years. And our program has been a part-time TBE program, but really based on numbers needs to move into that full-time TBE program. And in order for us to accomplish that, we are looking to hire a 1.0 bilingual coordinator who can support that program to facilitate the program, as well as to offer some push and instructional supports, and also to enhance our community outreach for our English learner families, our bilingual families. So that would be the recommendation. The other piece, I guess I failed to mention, for our duly identified students, this person would serve on those IEP teams as the certified staff member, which is an important role to make sure that we're really monitoring that number. That 47% of duly identified is high. We know that. Because we're our own district, we inherit a lot of students, or students transfer in who already have that dual identification, so it's really important for us to be monitoring that at IEP meetings to make sure that the services that we're recommending are really appropriate for what the student needs. So with that, we would recommend, like we said, the creation of a 1.0 bilingual coordinator position. Any questions?
And TBE is Transitional Bilingual Education Program. I want to make sure for clarity. And this person, we did say, would be able to be a resource for families, so not, in addition to the students, they could be able to reach out to our families and make sure they're aware of all the opportunities that we provide to our students.
Absolutely. We see them as facilitating our bilingual parent network. We see them really reaching out to families and really enhancing that community outreach.
Angela, great. Anybody else?
That's great.
Great. Then is there a motion to approve the request for a bilingual coordinator for 2022-2023 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Obear?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That concludes that portion of the meeting. We are moving on to new business. Under new business, we have an action item regarding the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education of Lyons Township High School District 204 and the Lyons Township High School Para.
We had one more item.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss
Summer
something?
proposals.
We do.
Summer workshop proposals
Oh,
for Scott.
it's not on there. Okay, sorry about that. Scott, I'm sorry.
That's okay, it's only a first reading.
It's a little bit of a big deal. So
That's okay.
could you please tell us about our school summer
Sure,
workshop?
I'll definitely keep it brief, though. We are looking to fund 22 summer curriculum and program development workshops. Many of them are working on goals and other initiatives that either have been around for a while or that we're looking to enhance. And then also providing time for new courses to get their courses up and running, as well as to improve upon some previous programming. So, for example, integrating more SEL practices into the PE classes, seeing how that's working, and articulating some of our curriculum across for strength training, for example, Spanish and health. We're also looking to come up with some alternative forms of assessment for our core math courses so students can have multiple opportunities to demonstrate additional learning. And then in the curriculum area, we are focusing on a few initiatives just to make sure we have the time to be ready for the fall, including our professional learning, training of our equity ambassadors, our summer professional week where the teachers will have a chance to get some refresher work. And then we are still, and I'll have more concrete information on this next month, we're still looking to see if there are any other teams that are prepared to make a shift in grading. At this point, we do not have any recommendations, but we wanted to put that on here just as a placeholder, and that'll be updated by next month. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but we did go in quite a bit of detail last week on these. And it is a first reading, so no action tonight.
No action. We can move on. Great, thank you. Okay, now I think I will turn it over to Dr. Waterman. We have the action item, I'll say it again for you.
Yep.
Regarding the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education of Lyons Township High School District 204 and the Lyons Township High School Para Education Association for the years of 2021 through 2025.
Thank you, President Dillon. So I want to just provide some context first. The Board Negotiations Committee began negotiating with the LT Paraeducator Association in the spring of 2021 on a successor agreement to run from 2021 to 2025. Our negotiations process included 11 different sessions, including 3 sessions with a federal mediator. On Thursday, March 3rd, both sides reached a tentative agreement on a successor agreement that includes a $3.25 increase on the starting hourly rate for paraeducators and a 3.75% increase during years 2 through 4 of the contract. The tentative agreement also includes the addition of a tiered system which will provide years of credit on the salary schedule for both existing and new paraeducators who have brought or will bring educational experience to their roles as paraeducators. Our paras play a really significant role, a significant frontline role in our work with students. And I know that our board, our leadership team, and our community appreciates the support that our paraeducators provide for our students, for our families, and for our teachers in a variety of areas, such as special education, within the library, our science department, within our English learning program, among others. We really appreciate the high-quality manner in which they provide these important services, and we truly believe that this tentative agreement honors their dedication to our students and to our community. So I want to express my appreciation to the LTPA Executive Board and the LTPA negotiations team, as well as to our Board of Education negotiations team for everyone's efforts over the last year in reaching this tentative agreement. So at this time, it's my recommendation that the board approve this agreement with the LT Paraeducator Association as presented and outlined in your packet of materials.
Do you have any comments or anything? We're looking forward to continuing this relationship and agreement, and we definitely value our paraeducators. So thank you very much for everyone who's worked on this, brought it to the table. Is there a motion then to approve the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education and the LTPA as presented?
So moved.
Second. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Albert?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
yes,
Member Dillon?
Yes. Great, thank you. Congratulations. We now have reached the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second?
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Swinehart?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
yes,
Member Albert?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes. Thank you. That concludes our business for the evening. At this time, we'll begin the non-agenda related portion of our public comments. Marilyn, do we have any non-agenda related? Oh, you did say.
We do.
We have.
Susan O'Mahony is first.
First, I'd like to just remind everyone that there are two opportunities where audience members are allowed to address the Board of Education. We appreciate your participation. Please understand we do not engage in dialogue. If there is a specific question or comment that requires follow-up, the appropriate administrator will respond at a later time. Individuals addressing the board are expected to conduct themselves with respect and civility pursuant to Board Policy 830. Individuals shall not use vulgar or obscene language or impede, delay, disrupt, or interfere with the board meeting. In the event this occurs, you will receive one warning regarding your conduct. If the behavior occurs again, you will be notified that you are in violation of trespassing and will be asked to leave our property. Failure to comply immediately and cooperatively with a directive of leave will result in the involvement of law enforcement officials. For now, we'll call our first speaker, and when you come to the podium, please state your name and where you're from.
Good evening. My name is Susan O'Mahony. I live in LaGrange, and I first want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I have a current sophomore and an incoming freshman. I am addressing you today with a concern over recent racist events that have occurred between current LT students. My daughter's very dear friends were targeted with vile and vulgar hatred over social media, which was meant to demoralize them. They have also experienced repeated incidences where they are called demeaning names while at school. These events are emotionally damaging for the students and their families and will be a permanent memory for them as they go through their lives. I fully understand that it's hard for administrators and teachers to always hear these comments, or that you may not have the ability to address a bullying event if it happens off of school grounds or on social media. I do, however, really appreciate that you are trying to make efforts to address racism through parent speakers, as well as your equity and diversity groups and leaderships. However, as difficult as this may be, it is vital and imperative that these conversations remain in permanent focus at LT. When I read about other states' recent legislation to silence discussion about gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity, I think about the message it sends to our children. You are not as worthy or as valuable. It creates a climate where misunderstanding and stereotypes exacerbated by social media and unreliable or intentionally misleading sources can grow into hate and discrimination. I firmly believe the best way to address race, sexual orientation, and gender identity is to talk about it, learn about it, and normalize it through education. We can still provide a setting that instills a great core education, a learning environment that talks about diversity through literature and celebrates leaders in these specific communities. This is an enhancement to all of our students' educational foundation. It's not an obstruction. It's not an either-or proposition. At the end of the day, we are talking about children, adolescents, who deserve to come to school knowing that their school respects them and is committed to tackling these uncomfortable conversations. With an educated foundation of our wonderfully diverse world, every one of our future graduates will be better prepared to enter it as young adults with an understanding and tolerance of diversity. They will be more willing and able to listen, to share their story, and simply have a conversation with people with different viewpoints other than themselves. I appreciate your time and your dedication to all of our students, and thank you for letting me speak to you tonight.
James Harrigan.
Hi, good evening. I'm not familiar with this format, so I can't ask questions. I just talk about what I want to talk about? Okay, great. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention the state of the ball fields and girls softball fields, specifically the freshman and JV fields. There's some photos, some other, I don't know if you guys want to pass these around or? Dr. Waterman called me a couple weeks ago. He's nice enough to do that, and I understand that there's going to be some work done in the field, hopefully in the next couple weeks. The season started today, and they won. But the first, I think, 3 weeks of their games are going to be away games because the fields are in such bad shape. They're just not safe. Somebody's going to get hurt. You'll see in the photos the state of the fields. There's glass. The benches got to be 50 years old. So I guess I'm asking the board to consider that when there's a capital appreciation or however you guys do it to fund these fields. I think we deserve better. And that's really it. It's kind of embarrassing that we can't play a home baseball game at Lyons Township High School, much less practice without, getting somebody hurt. So I don't know if that entails hiring someone on a more regular basis to be a grounds crew or what that entails, but I'd like the board to think that over and address that in the future so future classes don't have to future classes can have better is the bottom line. So thanks.
Lindsay Dillon.
This evening, I will serve each of you with a letter of intent to file a claim against your school insurance liability policy that is held with a risk management company in lieu of your individual liability bonds that are required by state law for every person who is elected or appointed to government or public office. You might not realize this yet, but each of you is personally liable for a predetermined amount stated in your policy for damages per claim. In your policy, each occurrence is one claim filed against your policy. Each occurrence carries a predetermined deductible that you must pay prior to the insurance company covering the rest of the damages. This board has violated numerous state, federal, and international laws, and many of your indiscretions will not be covered through this policy. The allegations include practicing medicine without a license, bullying, bribery, imprisonment, violation of civil rights, violation of religious rights, pollution, humiliation, mental anguish, providing obscene and pornographic material to minors, and interfering with a child's attendance at school. That means you could lose your house, your cars, your job, your retirement. You are in violation of multiple state and federal Laws based on the most recent case in Southern Illinois, you could be facing time in federal prison for your actions if you do not cease and desist. I don't want to see this happen to any of you. All I want is the best for our children. You have 72 hours upon receipt of this notice to correct these violations at all schools in the Lyons Township District. This includes the following: stop coercing all forms of COVID-19 propaganda and all vaccine clinics on school grounds. Cease coercion and pushing CRT, LGBTQ month, demanding children to declare if they are transgender to participate in school activities and classes. Halt all enforcement of policies that require universal masking and masking without parental consent, including in classes. Remove all obscene and pornographic books and materials immediately. Remove all boys from the girls' locker rooms and bathrooms. Remove all girls from boys' bathrooms, including the sanitary product machines. Remove all toxic cleaning products from school premises. Parents have the right to vote on educational material that is being taught in our schools. Additionally, we have the right to peruse, examine, and approve or disapprove of all material that the school board would like to introduce into the schools. You were elected to serve the public and represent parents' wants for their children. Failure to comply with the aforementioned demands within 72 hours of receiving this notice will result in a claim being filed against the insurance and/or bond company for the full amount of the coverage, which is $1 million each for each of the 7 board members. So I spoke with the officer over there. He told me to leave these here at the podium and somebody can come and get them.
Addison Schaefer.
Okay. Last board meeting, there was a comment made after I spoke. I wanted to know why nobody on this board redirected the rude comment. Anyways, I mainly wanted to speak about a matter that isn't an amazing idea. Tampons in the boys' bathrooms and supposedly the boys' locker room. You all saw the tampon dispenser in the boys' bathroom after only an hour. It was broken by the boys that were in the bathroom. People talked in the halls. Students said, if someone needs to use a tampon, then they need to be in the girls' bathroom. I get we want equality, but was anything thought through when you decided to put the tampon dispensers in there? I don't think so. You guys asked us, teachers asked us, how we felt about sitting next to someone unmasked, but you guys didn't ask the guys about how they felt on this matter? Okay.
Joyce Hagan McIntosh.
Good evening, Joyce Hagan McIntosh, LaGrange, Illinois resident. First, I want to thank each of you for the job that you're doing. I appreciate your dedication to the education of all of our local students. As a parent, I have the right to determine what my child read in books, view on television, see on their computers and phones. I'm a firm believer in the sovereignty of our U.S. Constitution, and I happen to be a First Amendment literalist. My mother didn't let me watch Little House on the Prairie due to mature topics. I'm not kidding, she was quite the censor. But she did understand that she couldn't control what every other parent wanted their kids to view and see. By vocation, I train librarians and educators on topics of the First Amendment and privacy related to library policies. And I want to remind every person here that these school officials, our teachers, and our librarians don't put titles and curriculum ideas in a hat, toss it up, and pick them. These people have to do every single thing guided and constrained by state and federal law. Everything in our curriculum is determined by laws. Every policy they set has to be a legal time, place, and manner restrictions, and what they do does comply with the First Amendment rights present in this form of public institution. So they have the right to legally end this comment session at a set amount of time. They have the legal right to stop me talking if I don't adhere to their time, place, and manner rules. And it's their job to provide access to information and materials for all of our students without having to defend the content of those materials. There is something in our curriculum to like piss off every one of us, I guarantee. What I want my sons to read is probably very different than what each of you wants your kids to read. But at the end of the day, there does have to be content that reflects every student's life and experience. And I appreciate what a good job you're doing of upholding that. Thank you to all of you for creating the policies and providing the opportunities that you give to every child that walks in these doors.
Jonathan Kopel.
Hey y'all, I'm Jonathan Kopel. It's come to my attention tampons were put in the boys' bathroom for some odd reason, and just, you know, biology, boys don't menstruate, so they would have no use for a tampon. It didn't get there by accident unless it was planned to be put in the girls' bathroom, which is also a little confusing because now there's a gender fluid bathroom, which I don't want to lie to kids. I don't think you should lie to kids. You have biological males, biological females. One has ovaries, one has testicles. That's biology. I'm going to read your equity statement. It says that the Lyons Township High School remains committed to building a community based on a foundation of equity and inclusion where all students are treated with respect and dignity and know they belong. Except for the kids that want to have the Turning Point chapter, because apparently they don't belong. But the gay club and the equity club does belong. And look, they can have their clubs. I have no issue with that. I do have an issue with you discriminating against the nonpartisan, recognized by the IRS club, Turning Point USA. Kids want to have their club, you won't let them. Discrimination is discrimination. Just because maybe there's not a color involved doesn't make it less bad. It's terrible. And you guys really need to fix that, or else you're probably going to get sued for discrimination, because this is America, and we're supposed to treat everyone equally. So stop lying to kids about the gender issue, fix the baseball field, and get the tampons out of the boys' bathroom. Thank you.
Leslie Mendoza.
Thank you. Those of you guys who don't know, my name is Leslie Mendoza. I'm a senior, and I'm the president of the Turning Point USA chapter here at LT. And for about the past year now, we've been trying to get this club here at LT, and it has been denied twice now for completely invalid reasons. And I know, I'm guessing that almost all of you had read the proposal. We were forced to change the wording on our proposal because after a meeting, it was brought to my attention that it was because of the wording on the proposal that it was denied. We resubmitted it, changed the wording like we were asked to, and it was denied again. So when we have students here that are allowed to have clubs that are partisan and they're completely allowed, it definitely sets the idea that it's just conservative students that aren't allowed here. And it's not just me. There's so many students that have come to me and brought it to my attention that they're afraid to speak out in class if they have conservative ideologies, and it shouldn't be like that. Because like Jonathan just said, in our equity statement, LT should be a place where every student is allowed to speak their mind and they should feel comfortable to be whoever they are. And I genuinely think that you guys all have the idea that that's what LT is, but it's absolutely not. And I think we saw after last month when students protested the mask mandates that you guys were unlawfully enforcing. We had students isolated for almost a month in the basement of our library. As soon as those students were released and allowed back into class,
that same amount of hate that they were getting when we started the chapter came right back into the classroom, and I don't think any parents ever got any email about it. And I know if there's any hate that ever happens to any other students, you guys are on it quick. And it's disappointing to see that you guys don't hold those same expectations when it comes to conservative students or students who were protesting what you guys were enforcing. And I had the opportunity to sit into an equity and belonging meeting a couple days ago that was actually focused on eliminating hate at LT. And sitting in that meeting and having students quietly whisper about me because, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm not the most liked kid at LT, but I have absolutely no problem with that. I'm going to stand for freedom, and I will defend this country and the Constitution that our nation was built on, regardless of the amount of comments or stuff that I get. I have absolutely no problem with that, but the fact that in a meeting that was there to eliminate hate at LT, that there are students that were saying hateful things to students, and then they'd go home and say the exact same things on social media, and we'd bring it up to the attention of board and administrators, and they'd do absolutely nothing, makes me a little disappointed. So do better for all of your students, and not just those of color or other
Marilyn,
groups.
Who do we have next?
Becky Lawrenson.
Hello, everybody. I'm Becky Lorenzen, and I live in LaGrange. And I'm just here tonight to really praise the board's effort. I think you did a really nice job with your strategic planning of having a very inclusive audience to give you feedback from the community. I also really am impressed by your support of the students' social needs in terms of hiring sufficient counselors and social workers and coordinators and support for English learners and your support for the paraeducators. I think that this support is really important so that each student can really be who they are intended to be, that they have the supports that they need to be accepted for who they are. So I just wanted to thank you again for all the efforts that you've made. Thank you.
Kelly Burns. Jim Ladsky.
We're here to speak on behalf of the communication breakdown between the faculty and parents. My daughter was a remote learner for a year and a half because of COVID and really struggled in coming back this year as a junior. And her first period, she was frequently late, and the school knew about it and didn't seem to communicate to us that at some point they would recommend that she withdraw from the class. And the counselor had spoken to her, but no communication was ever done with me, and I think that Mom had a little bit of communication, but there was never a point where the school would own up to the fact that they just fell down and didn't let us know that there was a time when this should have happened, and it just didn't.
Katie Kozlowski is my daughter's counselor, and she had private conversations, not contacting myself or Michelle's dad about and highly recommending that my daughter receive a W without failure for the course and get out of the class in a timely manner. And this is dating back to September and October of 2021. I've been in contact with various members of the administration about this to finally get it resolved, because unfortunately she received instead an F on her report card. And that's not what was promised to her or discussed. Did you want to say?
Well, during the parent-teacher conference, I spoke with the teacher and the counselor.
and this was never brought up at all, never advised, and Mom didn't even have the opportunity. She set up a separate conference.
Ms. Kozlowski failed to contact me for my scheduled parent-teacher conference, during which I plan to discuss just that, the W without failure, because that's what Ms. Kozlowski and my daughter discussed, and I was just following up on it and wanting to approve it. And somehow nothing has transpired, and here we are at third quarter, and this is something that should have taken place, once again, by September or October of last year. So we just want to get it resolved.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you.
So each member of the family had completed a form. So next is Harold Gibson.
Good evening, honored members. It's important to know that since I've been in LaGrange, that you have been very hard striving to try to develop equity. But also, too, you've been trying to do something else which is very hard, because people have not learned exactly what it means, and that is justice. It is said that justice is the most beloved in God's sight, and that we're to turn to it. And I think that this is a process that we all have to be patient with as we grow and as we go forward, because right here, these teachers, this board, is the ones who are each year bringing up the next generation, which will in fact influence 7 generations into the future, each one. So your job is very hard, and I'm very proud of you guys because you work very hard at it. And I've known the things that you've gone through, and I respect it, because so hard is it to understand even other cultures that come in, and yet you try to make it as equitable as possible. But everybody has to learn that at some point, everybody has to give. At some point, everybody has to sit at the table and honestly talk. And I think that you guys have given people an awful lot of opportunities, and I want to thank you for your effort, because it has taken a lot of effort on your part, a lot of courage, and a lot of love, because if you weren't there, there would be no love. So thank you very much for your jobs.
Ricardo Martinez.
I'm tall. Hello. Thank you for listening. I just wanted to say thank you to the board members. Thank you very much for a couple things that come to mind. One is thank you for investing in infrastructure. Thank you for planning to put air conditioning into the schools. I think it'll make it a safer school and a better learning environment for people. So thank you for agreeing to do that. Second is thank you for hiring Dr. Rowe. I think it's an awesome commitment to the diversity, equity, and inclusion that the school has put out there for its values. I think it's overdue. You've seen other school districts all over the state and the country do similar things and have good results. The achievement gap is still really bad. It actually closed a little bit this year, but only because the minority achievement went down a little bit less than other people's achievements. So it's something to work on. I saw a really cool quote I wanted to share really quick. It's just that diversity is a fact and equity is a choice. Inclusion is an action and belonging is an outcome. So I believe in that. And then last, I wanted to thank you for having rules that make sense and enforcing those rules. I know it can be difficult when Not everyone enjoys rules, but when the rules make sense and you enforce them, I think that's awesome, and I thank you for being strong. And I'm surprised to hear a lot of comments about tampons today in the boys' bathroom. That was interesting to me. I think at a minimum that boys can be advocates and allies for girls, and if they need a tampon and a boy can provide one, then that's cool. But I mean, I have personal support for transgender students if they need to use the restroom for that as well. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all the work you do.
That concludes our comments.
Great, thank you, everyone. That concludes our comments for the evening. We want to wish everyone an amazing spring break. Again, to reiterate what we've heard here over time and time again, to take a time off and reset. Let's come back refreshed. We don't have much time left of the school year, but we're going to make the most of it, and we're certainly going to enjoy it. So, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting this evening?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.